death, it exposed that dysfunction. But this is the problem. We're getting our feelings about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't
Yes,
want
we
to,
do.
I don't want to hear that. Even though you look at it in the mirror every day
Yep.
and you don't address it. So I'm glad you brought it out. When you hear it, embrace it, right? Just embrace it.
Yep.
Trust me, God has a way. God has a way of using people as sandpaper. I know you don't want to hear that. You don't like that, but God, He is
Mm-hmm.
proficient. And we just want it to be through situations, but no,
Mm-hmm.
one of our core values is fellowship. So
Yeah.
who better to hear from than relationships? When you hear it, just let the sandpaper sand it. I know
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable. I know it don't feel good to your flesh, but let the sandpaper. And unfortunately for some of us, we have shelves full of sandpaper that were meant to buffer us out, to get us
Yeah.
smooth. Don't nobody want no janky furniture in their house with all these rough
Mm-mm.
edges and looking all. Now you can tell the furniture, it has something.
Yep.
It has some moxie. It has that tension. It has
Mm-hmm.
that it has a posture about it, and you want it, but you don't want it raggedy. But when
Mm-mm.
you put that sandpaper on it,
Yep.
and then after you come through with the sandpaper, you come back with that wood finish.
Yep.
It's about God is wanting to get you to a place, get you buffered out so that somebody can take you and use you. Somebody needs to sit on us. Somebody needs to rest on us. You
Yeah.
don't want to be, you can't sit in no bar stool, no wood bar stool that ain't been sanded. You're gonna have
Right.
all kind of splinters. And
Yep.
it's like time, people don't need any more of your splinters. They need you to be
Mm-hmm.
smoothed out. Go ahead, sit through the process. He's like, man, all this from a death. Absolutely. It comes to
Mm-hmm.
expose what's going on with you, right? It
Yeah.
exposes it, right? And I'm telling you, there are some things that happen, and it happened, right? It happened. And I'm gonna say sorry for those who should have said, hey man, I'm sorry. I'm apologize for all the people who did not apologize to you. I'm sorry
Right.
that they didn't do it. I'm apologizing on their behalf. Why? Because I want you to move forward. Forgive
Mm-hmm.
them, put it over, get back in the wood shop and get sanded, right?
Yeah.
Let that
You got
sandpaper
to.
have its perfect work in you. Because trust me,
Mm-hmm.
people are steady coming by the showroom floor. And God's like, man, I got this piece of furniture that is to die for, but I can't get that joke out of the warehouse. But
Right.
but I will say this. I will say this in fairness. You can stay in that warehouse your entire life. You heard
Ooh.
Victoria say it. She said, I want to die empty. Unfortunately, she and I both know, some of you listening know, there are graveyards. There are wood graveyards full of beautiful sculptures, structures that never made it home to people for people to partake of because they would
Wow.
not submit to the sanding process. And so
Mm.
there was like it was a double death.
Yeah.
It
That's
was
sad.
it was like a double death. You remember when Eli's sons they ended up being killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when Eli
Mm-hmm.
heard it, he fell back and broke his neck.
Yeah.
It was like that's double. It's double. Like they died, and then their dad died, and then they're
Mm-hmm.
like that. That's not the purpose. No, no, no. That's just it's no. And we're gonna stop. We're gonna cancel the death. It's about life. It's about life. It's about life. It's about life. I'm gonna keep saying it's about life. It's about you living, right? And I know
Mm-hmm.
these aren't the most popular subjects, but I thought it's important. I think it's important. And I hope that these conversations that they spark other conversations. Man, I hope that it'd be a group of ladies that put this podcast on and just listen to it and then, hey, let's discuss it. What do y'all think
Yeah.
about what they were talking about? Or have their own form of a podcast. Let's just have the conversation. We need to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
We know these issues are going on in these homes and in these communities, but what's
Yeah.
being done about it? So, this is good. This is really good. You definitely are bringing out some pointers and some angles that I had not even thought about, Miss Victoria. So this has been good.
Likewise, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's really been good. And then I would probably end with when there's been a death as it relates to your hope and your ambition. Um, it's a lot of you. You're very talented. You're very gifted. You're a great thinker. Um, and when you put your hands on things, when you put your hands on it, the thing prospers.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have the nicest car. Watch this. You can have the nicest car on the lot. And we know this is an issue right now. But if you don't put that chip in it, the chip of hope and the chip of ambition, because when you go to dealerships, there's a chip shortage for vehicles,
Yeah.
right? We know that across the world, it's a chip shortage. Life is the same way. You have the vehicle that God gave you the vehicle, but you have to put the chip of hope and ambition in it so that the vehicle
Yeah.
can move. And
Yeah.
so the death of things, it comes to choke your hope and your ambition out. So I want you to talk about that a little bit because I know it costs you something to become an author, but
Mm-hmm.
to write. You have some other business ideas. And I know because some of it's in a forming stage, maybe you can't talk about them, maybe you can, but I want you to talk about what it's like when you're fighting to keep that hope or fighting to keep
Mm-hmm.
ambition. Because, it's nothing like swinging at something, casting it out there and it doesn't hit, it doesn't land, especially if you've done
Right.
it multiple times. The first thing that
Mm-hmm.
takes a hit is your hope and your ambition. So I want you to talk about that, Victoria. We've talked a little bit off the camera, about some things, but in a more practical way, talk to the listener and the viewer about that. Like, how do you
Yeah.
how do you navigate those waters when you find yourself in them?
In that type of situation. Yeah. I would like to say for the past, my son is 6, so 5 years, I was at a point where um, I gave up all dreams and all ambitions,
Oh
pretty
wow!
much.
Wait
You
a minute.
know,
Did you say you gave all of them up?
I gave them all up. Like, I don't want to be healthy anymore. I'm not going to take care of myself. I'm not going to go back, like, no, I didn't go back to school. I'm not going to sing anymore. Like, for the first 2 years of me being a single mom, like, it was me being resentful of a decision I made. First of all, I made a bad choice as far as not my son, but not walking in the will of God, if you will. And so there are natural consequences for that. There is a way that God has designed this thing. And I know that I've been born in the church, born, just. And so when my son was born, it didn't go the way I thought it would go as far as having that family structure. So it ended up being me just taking and it was a beautiful hit to take, I will say, at this point now in life. But at the time, I was very resentful and very just hurt. And I would like to say I always try to look for the good and potential in people. So I approach things in a naive way. So, needless to say, I was like, well, look, I can't do my dreams and give my son 100%. Matter of fact, I can't even take care of myself. I let myself go. Um, I was mad at God for a season. Um, I didn't want to sing anymore. I stopped listening to Christian music altogether. I'm like 97.9. I'm like what? Just a totally different person.
Yeah.
Somebody my grandmother would not have been proud of. Not to say she would love me. I'm a grandbaby, but she would have been like, that's not in you. And there's something greater in you. But
Mm,
I was very depressed about it. Um, I couldn't find the time, couldn't find the resources to do what I wanted to do. You're not getting child support. Like all these things come together and your dream dies. Your hope dies. Ambition dies. You're just kind of keeping your head above water. Like one of those. Yeah.
I
And
got you.
that
I got
that's
you.
not a good place to live. It's not. And
Mhm.
I did that until I think God brought this pandemic to shake things and people up because it shook me up. Um, when the pandemic hit, it gave me an opportunity down, to slow down. All right, okay. And when you sit with yourself for long enough, you can feel, you can think, you can process. And I'm like, this, and I could hear my grandma like, this is not it. I mean, I was doing things that I would never, as a Christian woman, think that I would be doing. Like it changed my character, the death of hope, the death of ambition. Because I would like to say my hope and ambition were kind of guardrails to keep me on track on what I wanted to do because I knew I was set apart. I can't go this way. I can't go that way. I'm not supposed to be doing that. I'm not supposed to be hanging over there with so and so and doing, but all that went out. So my guardrails were gone. So, I kind of lived a year or two just kind of lost and just doing whatever, pleasing the flesh, pleasing myself, forgot about the will of God because I thought it forgot about me. Um, and he said, no, 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 you are mine. You are called, you are appointed, you are anointed. And as I sat there for a while and I got to look back over my life and the people that I had the privilege of knowing and endeavors I had to, I was on to something before I had my son. Like I had some things in line, and all of that just kind of failed. It dropped. It was like, oh, and it's embarrassing because you publicize when you're doing great. You're like, oh, I'm gonna post all, and then it just stopped. So then I started again with I wrote the book last year, and I have it right here. My first book. I wrote it, Motivated Millennial Mom.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
go.
go. And
Yes.
it's crazy
Love it.
because even in the midst of that, I got it out. I got enough energy to birth it. And then it didn't do exactly what I wanted to do. Then I kind of quit again. Not quit, but I just sat still for a while.
Hmm.
And then I met you at the author exhibit expo, and I was sharing this with you. This is my first event since I wrote the book. Since I quit on everything, and that one event with the media blocks just kind of I got to see everybody else in the room. They doing their thing. I'm like, oh Lord, okay, you're still doing things. You're still doing great things. And you put me in this room with all these people, like, oh my goodness. And, you know, that event in itself breathed a new life. I mean, I met so many people. I met you. We've had subsequent conversations that have fueled even more, like, wow, these people believe in my idea. Like I'm just sharing things that God put inside of me and listening to, okay, thank you, God, for sending me some people to affirm what you have already said and
Mm.
spoken. So when things
Mm.
die, when dreams and ambitions die, here are some things that could happen. You can go rogue, like I went rogue. My hope, my ambitions were my guardrails. That's what kept me moving in the right direction. And so you got to get it back. You got to get it back, and God will bring the people along. You just have to have your eyes open and be willing to recognize the people that God brings to kind of, because he'll bring some people to pull you out to kind of help dust you off. All right, what's that pretty? You can see something, you walking by and you see something like sparkling in the dirt. You're like, that's not supposed to be in the dirt. Let me pick you up and blow you off and dust you off. You're not supposed to be down there. Come on, let's do this. And that's what you have done, along with a
Mm.
host of people. Like lately, this is like I was looking forward to this podcast all week. I'm like, wow, God, somebody wants to talk to me about these things and things that I have ideas worthy enough to discuss that are going to be beneficial to people. So yeah, he'll bring people alongside of you to kind of help, you know, dust you back off.
Wow. That's, oh man, incredible answer. You making it easy on me. Um, Let me shout out too. Let's shout out Media Block.
Whoop whoop, media block.
Media Block, good friends of ours. I do believe that was a destiny moment. Just some of the
Hmm.
relationships that came out of it. Just at Media Block, they are some their hearts over at Media Block is definitely in the right place, and they're definitely being a
Yeah.
blessing to the business world and to the community. So we definitely want to shout them out. Um, I want to say something to you. The reason I went the whole route I did is I wanted to get to this place, and I waited to talk about hope and ambition last. Now, you've shared, I will say this, not that every guest, I know everything about them, but there are some things we talked about because there are some things that we're working on, and I'll talk a little bit about those at the end. But one thing, when I mentioned to you about the hope and the ambition, I didn't know that your life was ever at that place, right?
Hmm.
What does getting your hope and ambition look like? Because I asked the question. I'm going to tell you this is what I call it. In order to get it back, you need to make sure that you have some jumper cables.
Hmm.
I'm just telling you. You and I both know if your battery runs down or goes dead,
Hmm.
people will see you with your hood up. People will
Hmm.
stop. It's like, hey, you need any help? It's like, yeah, my battery's dead. Oh, they're like, oh, you need to jump. Do you have any cables? I'm telling you, the average person, they don't have cables.
Right.
Now, the person that stopped, they have the potential to get you going again, but them themselves, they don't have cables. One of the things I know that I'm born to do in life is to help jumpstart and help revive people, help revive them in ways that a lot of times people's like, man, that's not even worth reviving.
Right.
So I know that, you saying that, I didn't know anything about your story, but just you
Hmm.
just making that comment about um, just the relationship, right? The friendship,
Hmm.
what has it done? You just confirm what God told me that I'm supposed to do.
Wow.
So when I go, I promise you, you may see me, but all you're seeing is a walking, all you seeing, all, I'm t- all you seeing is a walking jumper cable.
Mm.
And I know at any given time, any given moment, somebody in here need a jump. I don't know
Hmm.
who, Lord. Why? Because I went through seasons of my life where I needed a jump.
Yes.
And then you get to the point where you're mature enough. You've learned how to have and be the jumper cables. God says now your responsibility. You don't need a jump. It's going to be your responsibility to give jumps. And
Mm.
so, because I'm telling you on the podcast, get ready, prepare to be the jumper cable. You're a
Wow.
candidate. You can't. You are a candidate. See, we've made serving God so hard because
Whew.
we've come up with all this criteria that we need to serve Him.
Yeah.
And when I think every time I think about Moses telling God about his mouth, it's like what, like what's wrong with you, Mo? Why are you tripping? Now watch this. He was raised up with Ramses. I mean, he was raised up in the house. Do you
In the
know what kind
house.
of information the boy was exposed to? He wasn't a slave. He
Right.
wasn't a slave. The education, the the culture, all of it. Moses was no dummy. But
Yeah.
now you have arrived at the place you're here at the purpose. And because you deem the assignment taller than you or bigger than you have the nerve to camp out by telling God about I'm a stutterer. What? No, Moses, you're a jumper cable.
Yeah. Come on.
Millions of people are waiting for you to put your life. Oh man, it's
Man.
the death comes. The death comes to put your life out. And I'm talking about all different types of death now: physical deaths, um, financial deaths,
Yeah.
health deaths, death. It comes to stop you. You were born in life for somebody else, for the greater good of somebody else. You know, some of us really, really broad, some a lot more, maybe a lot less narrow, but it's about somebody else. So you're watching
Right.
today. There are two people watching. One of you said, when I said that I'm a jumper cable, something in your heart, something in your spirit leap. You're a jumper cable. To the other person, you're in the preparation as a jumper cable. You're in the cocoon. I, you will not be crawling around through life no more. You about to fly like a butterfly.
Ooh,
So go through the process. Because if you don't go through the process, you're gonna be in the cocoon a lot longer. Don't fight the metamorphosis. Don't fight it.
receive it.
Go through it.
Receive it.
Go through it. Whoever this is for. So this year, 2022, whatever I do, whatever we're doing, whatever this community of people that God has brought together for us to do business and ministry together, I'm telling you this, whoever connects with it, I'm telling you, you're going to see things you have not saw in the year of
Mhm.
2022. Why? God is just looking for somebody who will believe him at what he says and just go. God's looking for a jumper cable. And you know, do you remember the pictures of what the city of Houston looked like after Harvey hit?
Ooh,
All the cars that were on the freeways and all the communities.
a mess.
Now we know those cars didn't need a boost. They needed a what? They needed a wrecker.
A record, a tow truck,
But
and
watch this. It's the principle of plugging up something. I have to connect to you to pull you out of what you're in. See, a
mm,
jumper cable couldn't pull those. Well, some of them probably would start if you jumped them. Some of them probably would. But the majority of them, no, no, no. All of them needed to be pulled out by
yeah, got to be pulled out.
something greater
Yeah,
than them. Not better. The tow truck ain't better than the car. Because what? You got
right.
some Mercedes, you got some G Wagons. The record, they don't even compare, but the
Make
record
it
has
plain.
something that it needs. And if we can
Yeah.
ever get to the place to identify that when someone else has something that I need, I just thank you for sharing that. That meant a lot to me, right? I
Hmm.
appreciate you saying that, right?
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
not,
Like,
yeah, we're not. Oh, come on,
and a
people
lot
got.
of times I want to add to you what you're saying. I want to piggyback off what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Where I got stuck is wanting the help from particular people
There it
that were
is.
already in my life. But God is
Uh-huh.
like, open your eyes. I've seen you a totally different crew that you don't know them. You got to get to know them. Yeah, that's not a part of you. You didn't grow up with them like your crew. That's okay. Your crew, maybe they didn't see the vision. That's
Right.
okay. They can still be your crew. I'm sending you some people, and you have to use your discernment, keep your eyes open, walk in the spirit, and know that it's okay. It may not happen the way you want it. You Pookie to come through and give you the hookup because that's your cousin. They're going, get over that. Get over that loss of what you thought it would be and who you thought God would use to help you, and accept the people. And it's going to be a peculiar group of people that you may like. I think I watched the show The Chosen. I have it on my app, and it talks about, you really get to see how Jesus met each of the disciples and Mary, his crew, his people that he chose, and they were a very eclectic group of people with very different lifestyles. Even Mary, like this, their lives have taken them different ways. Society viewed them in a certain way, but they were his chosen. He chose them. He picked them out, just like he's choosing people to walk with you. And it may not look like who you like. Jesus could have had the king, like he could have had, his group could have been, the Socrates and the smartest people, philosophers, because he was on that level, but he had a particular group in mind for his assignment. And he has a particular group in mind for your assignment. And so if you're listening as well, keep your eyes open for that group, because it may not look like what you want or what you thought it would be, but God is moving in a new way. He's using new people, new connections, new jumper cables, all that. So,
Do you realize that one of my favorite relationships in the Bible is obviously Jonathan and David?
mm,
I call it the beauty and the beast.
Yeah.
And when I say it, people was like, "Yeah, I can see that," but they don't see it because David was the beauty of the relationship.
Hmm.
He's like, "Well, why would you call Jonathan the beast?" I'm not calling Jonathan the beast. What David would have to conquer would be the beast.
Hmm.
David didn't know jack about the palace.
Hmm.
Jonathan rightfully was going to be the next king.
Yeah.
So his move to befriend David was so beautiful. Ah, it was against his fault. It brought trauma to the relationship between he and his dad. So his
Yeah.
relationship and his reach for David was so beautiful. But what David would have to conquer would be the beast. Now David is beautiful. Why? Because he's God's king.
Hmm. Hmm.
Saul was the people's king.
Yeah.
God handpicked David. That's what made
Yeah.
David beautiful. That's the only thing that makes us beautiful is God.
Yes.
It is God. But
Yes.
watch this. Jonathan, fully persuaded, he befriends him. And the Bible
Hmm.
talks about their love for one another. I know I believe there are times where the pulpit is afraid to talk about it because how the Bible describes how they loved each other.
Hmm.
When you don't even have a place, God will carve a place out for you. And I'm saying this for somebody. It can look like a beast of a situation, but when you make up in your mind watch this, through life and death, when you choose God, you choose the beauty of it. And I don't care how ugly or how beast of the situation it looks. God has already given you what you need and who you need. Jonathan was one of David's jumper cables to get him ready for the palace. Now think about this. We only talk about Saul throwing javelins at David, but we forget Saul threw a javelin at his own son, Jonathan. Why? Because of his
Wow.
relationship with David.
Wow.
So don't we talk about relationships, do not put don't put well, you can't put God in the box, but don't put him in the box in telling him how it needs to be done, who it needs to be done through. You need to be open. And I
Yeah.
promise you, David, that there is some Jonathans that's going to help you. And it doesn't look like you said, it doesn't look like who you think it is. But
Yeah.
embrace the beast thing, the ugly thing, the thing that doesn't look attractive. I promise you,
Hmm.
God has it all planned out for you. God's doing some things from that. I want to say I'm so bad, but I can't yet. God's doing them. Oh my, I can't take not any credit for them. None of them. And so for me, it's easy. Humility is easy. It's like, man, God, because if you don't work this out anyway, it's not gonna happen. I don't have the
Hmm.
wherewithal. I don't have the prosperity. I don't have the relationships. I don't have any of those things. God
Hmm.
said, I myself gonna do it. And so I'm telling you, these things, this podcast was birthed out of a death and a dying situation. Me
Ooh-wee.
writing the book was born out of a death and a dying situation. Me having
Mhm.
a publishing company was born out of a death and a dying
Come on.
situation.
Come on.
It's how you view it. So yes, death is real. We all have to experience, but I promise you, it's so much life in it. And so I
Mhm.
I hope these episodes are so just encouraging to you. I'm not trying to be your pastor. I'm not trying to be your none of that. I just want to encourage you. I want you to just think differently, look at it differently. God, He loves you so much, and
Yes, he does.
don't allow this now to be what your past was. Okay, and
Mhm.
I'm just telling you, I don't even remember which episode I talked about how man, the way I grieved my mom's death. I know what God's word says. I wasn't trying to grieve it, but there was some things I was not letting go. Right. And because I felt like it was such an unfair exchange.
Yeah.
But who am I to tell God what's unfair? Right. And I'm not advocating that God took my mother, because I'm definitely not advocating that. I'm not saying he took my mom. No, no, no. He's the giver of life, and that life is more abundantly. So I'm not advocating that. But I was mad, just mm, because of everything me and my mom or our family, my sister and my brother, we went through. It's like the story needs to continue, because there's a certain place we have to get to make up for all of that.
Yeah.
And so many people like me is like, this, it's not fair. It's other stuff that we're supposed to be doing. Listen,
Mm.
when that death happens, you cannot reverse it. So why stay there and pout over it? You got to get up, wipe your, I don't care if you got to wipe your eyes while you're walking, but you begin to walk and walk into your
Yeah.
destiny. So um as you can see, I'm a little passionate about it, because we got to get back to living. We got to get back to living. You got to get back to living. Get back to the living. Get back to living. Get back to living. Come out of that stupor.
Yeah.
Open those blinds up, literally and figuratively. Open
Hmm.
the blinds
Yes.
up. Let the sun, oh my God, let the SON shine in on you. Let
Hmm.
him revive you. My mom loved ivory plants. And man, they were growing all over the place. But I remember when they would get a little withered or whatnot. And it was almost like instantly she would pour that water on that ivory, and that ivory would, ah, I pray this is some water on somebody. I pray that it is.
Hmm.
Man,
Yes.
Veronica, we got to get out of here, because boy,
Yes, it is.
this is, it's people that are near and dear to me, people I love, and you know, I'm I care about you. You watching this, I care about you. You mean the world, not just to me, but you mean the world to other people. And they need you bad. Especially if you're a man and you're hearing this. Not only does this world need you, your family needs you, your community needs you, the church needs you.
Yeah.
Our sons need us. We got to get back to the living. I look at the generation, when I look at what's going on in the generation that's behind me, I look directly at us, me, our generation. We are part of the problem. We're part of we're part of the of why you see a generation going, because we have neglected first things.
Hmm.
And so we have to wrong that right. We got to be engaged. And some of us can't engage because we are just wallowing in things that have died.
Yeah.
You heard Miss Victoria. Her dad passed away before she was even born. Some of you got to even know your dad. You got to spend time with him. What's your excuse? Let's do away with excuses in 2022, and let's get back to life. Come on, New Balance Podcast. Put your hands together for my sister, Miss Victoria Dominique. Man, I just want to stay on with you, V, for another 2 hours. This has been good to
Right.
me. Um, I do. I pray that I believe that God has breathed on these, and we believe that people's lives are going to be the better because of it. Give us some closing words, Victoria, as it relates to this life after death.
Yeah. And one thing that you said is when he God took it from me, took her from me, took it from me. The solution, or one way to look at it, if you're upset or if you're figuring out how to get past something that you feel God has taken, think about this. It didn't belong to you anyway. The idea, the dream, mama, your kids, give it to God. Give it to God. Just if you give it to him, because it's his already. He put it there for you. You know, he gave it to you. So Connect your dream and ambition to something bigger than you, because if you limit to the confines of your flesh, it's gonna die with you too. Right? It's gonna die with you too. So, but if you connect it to the source, he can do something with your story over and over and over again, long after you've even left this earth. You
Mm.
know, if you realize that it doesn't belong to you. My vision to write a book initially was very selfish, but then I realized there are people outside of me that God has called me to, and that God wants to do a work in them. And how dare I put my selfish limitations? So just know it's not yours, it's God. And that's an honor to carry that. Look at it as an honor. It was an honor to know the people that you knew that have left this earth. God blessed you with those years. He gave you that relationship. Give it back to Him. Give her, give my grandmother. He blessed us with her. He blessed us
Absolutely.
with Armady. She lived. You open up these pages, you see families and graduations and all kinds of beautiful. That's what we put in these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
so they live. He gave them to us. We thank God for them. And from an attitude of gratitude, we move forward.
Yeah.
Thank you for the gifts, and thank you for entrusting us with the relationship and the ideas, the ambition, and all of
My,
those things. So if you would just give it back to Him, He
yeah.
can handle the rest.
You know, I'm gonna say I need to say this. I can't remember if I said it in one of the other episodes. Maybe I did, but it's, I'm drawing a blank. But if I didn't say it, I'm gonna say it now. To someone who thinks God is insensitive or God is unfair as it relates to death, let me set the record straight. God not only lost
Mm.
one son, he lost two sons. He lost his first son, Adam. So
Come
you're
on.
not dealing with a guy who can't be touched. That ain't who
Ooh.
he is. I don't know about all these other gods that are out there. And I know it's a lot of them and it's a lot of commentary about it, but I'm gonna talk to you about the true and the living God. He lost
Mm.
not one son, but he lost two sons. And I'm gonna tell you, we live in a time now. I'm gonna tell you, I don't know if I can handle seeing another young black man shot that the where the whole world can see. I don't know if I can see another black young lady shot, killed. Like I don't know if I can. I don't know how much more of that I can take. And as horrible as it was for the world to watch George Floyd lose his life the way he lost it, none of them lost their life like Jesus did. None of them.
Come on. Come on.
None of them. None
Holy
of
Spirit.
them. So don't, the days of
Mm.
you playing this blame game with God, you pointing your finger up and all of that, I'm chill out on that one. Let's put that to rest. I know you're
Mm.
hurting. I know you are hurting, but that's not the card you want to play with God. Trust me, he
Mm.
understands. He's the life giver,
Mm.
not life taker. He is the life giver.
Mm.
So the next time you're dealing with the death, I want you to begin to just in your mind think about God's heart and how he lost both his sons.
Mm.
So he's not the monster that people have made him out to be. He's a loving God. And I just find
Amen.
peace. I find peace in it. I find peace in it. Even when I do have a crazy thought, I know it's like, okay, it's all right. So
Yeah, that's
you're
absolutely.
not
That's so
alone.
good.
You're not alone. And I know, man, you're hurting. Trust me, I feel your pain. But let's not blame God.
Mm.
I want you to run to him so he can heal you. And you can get back to living. Get back to
Yeah.
living. One more time, give it up for my sister, Miss Victoria Dominique. This has been great. I
This
told
was
you,
great.
I told you we were gonna dig in. We told you we were gonna dig in. Um, just a little FYI, we have something that's near and dear to our heart that we're gonna be doing in the month of April. Um, we know. the face of education has changed. The landscape of it has changed tremendously. And
Ooh,
so,
I'm my
oh,
baby. I'm
oh, it's
sorry.
all good. It's all good,
He
mother.
made it
Hey,
to a level on Mario, and he's like super tight. Yes, mom.
you like, hey, mommy, you come on, you gotta give me my props. Let the podcast world. He made it to a level on Mario's. Come on, give him
He's
some
been
love.
trying since Christmas
He
too.
been trying. Oh man, so he's been long suffering. He been real long suffering.
I heard him
Kudos to
coming up
you,
the stairs.
man.
I was like, oh no, 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 don't come in here.
Kudos to you, man. Kudos, kudos. Um, in the month of April, we're gonna be talking about education, and we're gonna do like this town hall meeting type format. And man, I have some wonderful relationships, and I'm just so thankful for all of them. And the young lady who's on with me, Ms. Victoria Dominique, she'll be back in the month of April, and we're gonna sit down and have this conversation. Um, we know not only is the conversation being had in just about every home that has kids, but this is a national conversation. The face of education has changed. It's not changing. It has changed. And if we're going to be successful from a pipeline from home community to school, there are some things that we're going to have to make adjustments and do differently. So who better to have on than those who work on that gridiron every day, day in, day out. So we're going to have some amazing teachers, administrator, principals on. I cannot wait for April to do it, and I'm so glad that Victoria has signed on to chop it up with us for the month. So if you enjoyed this one, man, you go April, man. You don't want to miss it. Don't miss any episode. So we have that coming. And also, I was thinking, where can oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Um, I was gonna ask you something. Wow, Lord help me, as my mama would say, my mind is blessed, baby. My mind is blessed. She was telling me my mind is. Oh, I wanted to ask you this.
Uh-huh.
Is there a in the future? Is there a worship CD in the future? That's what I wanted to ask you.
Ooh. Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you. Yeah, is it? Are we gonna
Wow.
get a? Are we gonna get to come to a concert? Or are we gonna get to do a?
You know
Are
what?
you gonna do? Is there gonna be a virtual worship experience or something? Where
Ooh
can we
wee.
where
You
can we get
just
this worship?
planted a
Listen.
seed.
Everybody that knows me. I'm a worshiper. I'm a
Yeah.
worshiper, man. My worship is so important to me,
Yes.
and you know, I
I
just
you know that that
you might
has
not have an
been,
answer today. Say like, just tell us.
but that's been
Tell-
a thought.
that's been
That's
a
been
thought.
like a thought
Yeah,
that has been living like right here in
yeah,
the back of my head, has been moving forward.
right.
Like I told you in the opening, I have sang background for some amazing people, and I've always had this inferiority complex because especially in the black church, we be singing. And
Oh,
so, but
oh, I
as
already
I
know.
grow as a worshiper, I've
Yeah,
learned that the fruit is actually in the worship and the anointing,
yeah,
and I too can do that. So,
right.
like, I need to stop limiting myself with those thoughts, and that is
Yeah,
actually, I don't believe that God has allowed me to sing for this long to not maybe record something and
yeah,
and have that. So that's, thank you for asking that
yeah.
question.
My thing is, once again, I want to be some jumper cables. All of these different relationships. I'm just like this, man. Um, when you invest in people's vision, when you invest in their dreams, right? You you get there's a synergy
Mm,
that happens. There are so many things I'm believing God for myself, and what
right.
I want to do is model like things that are successful. So when you invest in people, like what does investment look like? Most of the time we always think it's like you got to give people some money or a bunch of money and
Mm-mm.
do that. Now, if you want to do that, please, if the Lord has moved upon you,
Hey,
if you want to sponsor the New Balance podcast, if you want to
come
sponsor
on,
the Hope Symposium for 2022, if you want to sponsor
come on.
the Catalyst for Change Summit 2022, holler at your boy. Trust me. Uh, that's not what that's not where I'm going with that. I'm going. This visitor just doesn't want to leave. So
You say you want to get in on this
yeah, he want to get
blessing.
in on this blessing. This is my thing. Find find a way just to be an encouragement to people,
Mhm.
right? That's through
I'm gonna tell
words of
y'all what he just said. That's something, because what he just did was so affirming to me. Just asking me about something, and there's the Holy Spirit working in him that saw that within me that was able to speak to that. My heart leaped when he said that because that's something that's in me that's always wanted to be done. So I was
right.
like, no one's ever asked me that.
Well,
Everybody knows I sing.
well,
So
we saw it on you at the event we worked. My
yeah.
kids, my obviously my kids were there with me. Um, we could see it on you. I'm telling you, it's on you. It's on you. That's why I asked. Like, it's just watch this. It doesn't cost anything to dream.
That's true.
It doesn't cost
And
you
to
anything to
encourage
dream.
somebody else
Yeah, it doesn't cost
in
you
their
anything to
dreams.
dream. Right now, when I'm gonna take off running and be laughing is when he's like, "Hey man, you can go to iTunes and download it, or you can go stream it on Spotify." That's see,
Hmm.
that's that like that's where you are. Whatever your thing is, I don't know. You may want to paint or
Yeah.
whatever. This is a different type of podcast. It's about we're gonna demonstrate what family and community looks like.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna demonstrate it. And you got some dreams, you have some goals, some things that you want to do in life, man, do it. But if you want to do them, find somebody who's doing maybe what you're doing, or encourage somebody along the way. Watch what happens.
Yeah.
Watch what God does for you, right?
Yeah.
Um, you want to give them, Victoria, you want to give them your IG where they can follow you
Yeah.
because you have some other
Uh,
things going on. I won't share those on here today, but it'd be cool if they would connect with you because you do have some other businesses that you do, um,
hmm
by which you can they can connect with you. That I think would be
Yeah.
very very resourceful for them. So how can people find you, follow you?
hmm I'm on IG, on Instagram as Miss Educated. So it's MISS dot educate dot ed. Miseducated, and this is my profile if you want. I know if it'll, but this is me. So when this pops
There it
up,
is.
Miseducated.
That's it.
Okay, so that's my Instagram for everything. At this point, and I'm working on some rebranding. I do have a Facebook page as well. It's the same, miss.educate.ed.
Got
You
it.
can follow me at Victoria Dominique. That's my personal. But like I am who I am in every aspect, which is one is more professional than the other.
Girl,
So
man, who you telling? Man,
yeah,
if I don't know what I do without my kids, they help keep me in. My stuff would be all over the place. So,
yeah.
um, once again, New Balance Podcast, show love for my sister, Ms. Victoria. Thank you so much for coming on. And we got to get out of here. As we always say here at the New Balance Podcast, it's strength for today, sustenance for tomorrow. It's your boy, your potential conditioner, H2O. And we'll see you next week. We love you. Peace.